Cristina Garcia is a kind-hearted, soft-spoken woman in her mid-20s. Despite her modest upbringing, she has worked her way up to become a respected event coordinator at Silvercrest Events, a prestigious company known for organizing high-profile corporate functions. Cristina, always reliable and hardworking, is selected to plan the most significant event of her career, a charity gala for Oliver King, the notoriously ruthless CEO of King Enterprises, a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. Oliver King is known for his cold, calculated demeanor and unforgiving business strategies. He has a reputation for being a perfectionist, and nothing less than excellence will suffice when it comes to his events. When Cristina's boss assigns her to take charge of the event, she feels a knot in her stomach. She knows the importance of this gala. It's a rare chance for Oliver to show his philanthropic side, but any mistake could ruin Silvercrest's reputation. As the day of the gala approaches, Cristina works day and night, paying attention to every detail. She refuses to let any part of the event be subpar, hoping to meet Oliver's impossibly high standards. However, on the night of the gala, a last-minute mix-up with the seating arrangements throws everything into chaos. Cristina's heart sinks as she watches Oliver's face turn to stone when he arrives and notices the error. "I want to speak to the person responsible," he demands, his voice as cold as ice. Cristina, nervous but determined to take responsibility, steps forward. "It was my mistake, Mr. King. I'll fix it immediately. I'm deeply sorry." Oliver eyes her, expecting her to crumble under the pressure, but Cristina holds her ground. There's a flicker of something in his gaze. Surprise, perhaps? Her sincerity and courage catch him off guard. Used to people groveling or making excuses, he's intrigued by her unusual mix of innocence and bravery. Though still annoyed, he decides not to fire her on the spot. Instead, he tells her to rectify the issue immediately, leaving her with a cryptic comment, "You're lucky I'm giving you another chance." Cristina is shaken, but she quickly resolves the seating issue. The rest of the night goes off without a hitch, but Oliver's presence looms over her, making her question every decision. Despite the rocky start, Cristina is praised by her superiors for her quick thinking, but all she can think about is the strange look Oliver gave her. The charity gala's minor setback might have been forgotten by others, but not by Oliver. The next day, he calls Silvercrest Events, specifically requesting Cristina to handle all future events for King Enterprises' upcoming anniversary celebrations. Cristina is surprised by the request, not sure if it's a second chance or a trap. She knows working closely with Oliver could either make or break her career, but her boss is thrilled and insists she take the opportunity. Cristina's first task is to meet Oliver in person to discuss the upcoming series of events. Walking into King Enterprises' sleek, towering headquarters, she feels out of place, her heart pounding. The building is a symbol of wealth and power, both of which Oliver commands effortlessly. Oliver greets her with a curt nod, wasting no time with pleasantries. He goes over the details with sharp precision, expecting perfection. Despite his cold demeanor, Cristina notices how every word and action from him is deliberate, and there's no room for failure in his world. She's careful, listening to every instruction and taking meticulous notes. Over the next few weeks, Cristina handles the events with unwavering professionalism. Though Oliver is demanding, she remains polite and dedicated, impressing him with her competence. What Oliver doesn't expect is how her calm, gentle nature starts to affect him. He's used to people bending over backward to please him, yet Cristina treats him with respect without fawning over him. This quiet confidence piques his curiosity. There are moments when Oliver finds himself staring at her during meetings, wondering how someone so simple and unassuming can stand out in his cutthroat world. But he keeps his distance, unsure of his own feelings, and hides his growing interest behind his usual stoic mask. As Cristina spends more time working at King Enterprises, she begins to hear whispers among the employees about Oliver's past. There are rumors of how Oliver became the ruthless businessman he is today, stories of tragedy and loss. Cristina is intrigued, but too professional to pry. Still, she can't help but wonder what drives a man to shut himself off from the world the way Oliver does. One evening, after a particularly stressful board meeting, Cristina is leaving the building when she spots Oliver sitting alone in his office, his usually sharp features softened by exhaustion. She hesitates, wondering if she should say something. Normally, she wouldn't dream of approaching him outside of business matters, but something compels her to knock on the door. "Mr. King," she says softly, stepping into the office, "you look like you could use a break." Oliver looks up, surprised. He's not used to anyone acknowledging his vulnerability. Most people in his life see him as a powerful CEO. But in this moment, Cristina sees something more. A man who carries the weight of an empire on his shoulders. Without thinking, she offers him a cup of tea, a simple gesture that surprises both of them. "I figured you might need something calming," she says, handing it to him. "It's been a long day." Oliver accepts the tea, still puzzled by her kindness. He watches her quietly as she returns to the door, but before she leaves, he speaks up. "Thank you, Cristina." It's the first time he's addressed her by name, and the sound of it on his lips sends an unexpected warmth through her. She smiles at him, and for the first time in years, Oliver feels a crack in the icy walls he's built around himself. Over the next few weeks, Oliver starts to notice that his interactions with Cristina are no longer just professional. There's a shift, subtle but undeniable. He finds excuses to call her into his office, asking for her opinion on things that don't really need her input. His gaze lingers on her when they're in meetings together, and he finds himself softening around her, though he tries to hide it. Cristina, too, feels the change. She can't deny the growing attraction she feels for Oliver, but she's careful to maintain her professionalism. After all, he's her boss, and the power dynamic between them is stark. She assumes that someone like Oliver, with his wealth and power, could never truly be interested in someone like her. One evening, after finalizing the details of another event, Oliver invites her to dinner. "We've been working late for weeks. You deserve a proper meal," he says, his tone more casual than usual. Cristina is hesitant. Is this just a business dinner, or something more? She's unsure, but curiosity and a growing fondness for Oliver lead her to accept the invitation. They go to a quiet, upscale restaurant where Oliver is a regular. To her surprise, the conversation flows easily. Outside of the office, Oliver is different, less guarded, more human. He asks about her life, her family, her dreams. Cristina finds herself opening up, sharing stories of her childhood and her passion for event planning. The chemistry between them is undeniable, but Cristina remains cautious. She knows the risks of falling for someone as powerful as Oliver. Yet, as the night progresses, she can't help but wonder if there's more to him than the ruthless businessman everyone sees. For Oliver, the dinner solidifies what he's been feeling for weeks. Cristina is different from anyone he's ever known. Her innocence and kindness are like a balm to his cold, hardened soul. He realizes he wants more than just a business relationship with her, though he knows winning her over won't be easy. He's not used to chasing after anyone. Usually, people come to him. But with Cristina, Oliver is prepared to take things slow, letting her see the man behind the CEO. Oliver King had always been a man of control, both in the boardroom and in life. But ever since that dinner with Cristina, something had shifted. He found himself distracted, thinking about her smile, her laugh, and the way she made everything around her seem lighter. It unnerved him. Cristina, on the other hand, couldn't ignore the growing tension between them. Every interaction with Oliver was charged, though he maintained a professional front. Yet beneath his cold exterior, she began noticing glimpses of a different man. A man she was slowly getting to know, though she had no idea how deep his scars ran. A week after their dinner, Oliver calls Cristina into his office to review the final plans for the upcoming King Enterprises Anniversary Gala. The event is set to be the biggest the company has ever hosted, and naturally, the stakes are sky high. Cristina enters the office, prepared for the usual business-like conversation, but Oliver seems different today, less guarded. "I've reviewed the guest list," Oliver says, handing her the papers. "Everything looks in order. I trust you to handle the final preparations." Cristina nods, glancing over the list. "Thank you, Mr. King. I'll make sure it's perfect." He watches her for a moment, his gaze piercing but not unkind. "Cristina, you don't have to call me Mr. King. Oliver is fine." She looks up, surprised. He had never made such a personal gesture before. "All right, Oliver," she says, testing the name on her tongue. It feels oddly intimate, and the shift in their dynamic becomes even more palpable. After finishing their discussion, Cristina stands to leave, but Oliver stops her. "Wait." She turns back, her curiosity piqued. "There's something I've been meaning to ask you." Oliver pauses, uncharacteristically hesitant. "Why are you here?" "In this job, I mean, you're obviously talented, but I get the feeling there's more to your story." Cristina blinks, caught off guard by his sudden interest in her personal life. "Well, I've always been passionate about organizing events," she begins slowly. "Growing up, my family didn't have much, but I found joy in making the little things special. Birthdays, holidays. I wanted to create moments people could remember, even when we didn't have much." Oliver listens intently, and for the first time, Cristina sees a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He's drawn to her honesty, the purity of her motives, so different from the calculated world he inhabits. Her words stir something inside him, reminding him of a time before he became the ruthless CEO everyone knew. "That's admirable," he finally says, his voice softer than usual. "Creating joy for others. It's rare to find people like you in this world." Cristina smiles, touched by his sincerity. For a moment, they simply stand there, the tension between them both undeniable and unspoken. But before anything more can be said, Cristina breaks the moment. "I should get back to work," she says, her heart racing. Oliver nods, his usual stoic mask slipping back into place. "Yes, of course." But as she leaves his office, they both know that something has changed. A line has been crossed, and neither of them is sure what comes next. The weeks leading up to the King Enterprises Anniversary Gala are a blur of preparations and late-night work sessions. Cristina throws herself into the event, determined to make it flawless. It's a career-defining moment for her, and she refuses to let anything go wrong. But there's also another reason she's been so focused on work: her growing feelings for Oliver. No matter how much she tries to deny it, she can't ignore the pull she feels toward him. Every glance, every touch, every conversation is laced with an undercurrent of attraction that she can't shake. Meanwhile, Oliver is battling his own internal conflict. For years, he's kept people at arm's length, never letting anyone close enough to see the man behind the business empire. But Cristina is different. She's broken through his walls without even trying, and it terrifies him. He's not used to feeling vulnerable, and he's certainly not used to wanting something, or someone, he can't control. As the day of the gala approaches, the tension between them reaches a breaking point. One evening, after a long day of planning, Oliver and Cristina find themselves alone in the office, reviewing the final details of the event. The air between them is thick with unspoken words, and when Oliver accidentally brushes her hand while handing her a document, sparks fly. "Sorry," he mutters, but the touch lingers. Cristina's heart pounds in her chest. She looks up at him, her eyes wide. "It's okay." Their eyes lock, and in that moment, all the barriers between them come crashing down. Without thinking, Oliver steps closer, his hand reaching out to gently cup her cheek. His touch is surprisingly tender, a stark contrast to his usual cold demeanor. "Cristina," he murmurs, his voice low and husky. She feels her breath hitch in her throat. This is dangerous. She knows it, but she can't pull away. The attraction between them has been building for weeks, and now it's undeniable. Before she can respond, Oliver leans down and captures her lips in a kiss. It's soft at first, almost hesitant, but quickly deepens as the pent-up desire between them finally explodes. Cristina melts into the kiss, her hands instinctively wrapping around his neck. For a brief moment, everything fades away. The pressures of work, the complications of their relationship, all that matters is the way they fit together, as if they were meant to find each other in this chaotic world. But then, just as suddenly as it began, Oliver pulls back, his expression conflicted. I shouldn't have done that. Cristina's heart sinks. Oliver. He runs a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated with himself. This is wrong. You work for me. I can't. Cristina cuts him off. It's not wrong. You're not just my boss, Oliver. There's something real between us, and you know it. Oliver looks at her, torn. He wants to believe her, but years of conditioning have taught him to trust no one and nothing but his own instincts. I don't know how to do this, he admits, his voice barely above a whisper. I've spent my whole life building walls, and now you've torn them down without even trying. Cristina steps closer, her hand resting on his chest. Then let me help you. We don't have to figure it all out right now. Let's just take it one step at a time. Oliver stares at her for a long moment before finally nodding. Okay, one step at a time. The night of the anniversary gala arrives, and it's nothing short of spectacular. The venue is filled with the elite of the business world, and everything from the decor to the entertainment is flawless, thanks to Cristina's meticulous planning. As the event progresses, Cristina and Oliver steal glances at each other from across the room, their earlier kiss still fresh in their minds. Despite the elegance and grandeur of the evening, Cristina can't shake the feeling that something is about to change. The energy between them is electric, and she knows that tonight will be a turning point in their relationship. Later in the evening, Oliver finds Cristina standing alone on one of the balconies, taking a moment to catch her breath. He approaches her quietly, his presence sending a shiver down her spine. You did an incredible job tonight, he says, his voice soft. Cristina smiles, but there's a tension in the air that she can't ignore. Thank you. But it wasn't just me. It was a team effort. Oliver steps closer, his eyes never leaving hers. You know that's not true. You were the one who made this happen. I've never met anyone like you, Cristina. Her heart skips a beat. There it is again, that raw vulnerability in his voice. The walls he's built around himself are crumbling, and she's the only one who can see it. Before she can respond, Oliver reaches out and takes her hand, his thumb brushing gently over her skin. I haven't been able to stop thinking about that kiss. Cristina looks up at him, her pulse racing. Neither have I. Without another word, Oliver pulls her into his arms and kisses her again, this time with more passion and certainty. The world fades away once more as they lose themselves in each other. For the first time in a long time, Oliver feels something he hasn't felt in years: hope. In the days following the gala, Oliver and Cristina's relationship becomes more complicated. At work, they maintain their professional facade, but outside the office, things are different. They begin spending more time together: dinners, late-night phone calls, stolen moments of affection. But as their relationship deepens, so do the complications. Oliver is a man used to control, and his growing feelings for Cristina are something he can't control. He finds himself becoming protective, even possessive of her. He hates the idea of anyone else getting close to her, and it's a feeling that both surprises and frustrates him. Cristina, meanwhile, is grappling with her own fears. She knows that falling for Oliver could lead to heartbreak. He's a man with a lot of baggage, and she's not sure if he's capable of letting someone fully into his life. But despite her reservations, she can't deny how deeply she's falling for him. One evening, after another long day at work, they find themselves alone in Oliver's penthouse. It's the first time Cristina has been to his home, and she's struck by how stark and impersonal it is. The decor is sleek and modern, but there's no warmth to it, no signs of life. This place is beautiful, Cristina says as she looks around, but it doesn't feel like a home. Oliver glances around, a slight frown on his face. It's just a place to sleep. Cristina walks over to the large windows that overlook the city skyline. You deserve more than that, Oliver. You deserve to have a life outside of work, a life with people who care about you. Oliver watches her, his heart tightening in his chest. No one has ever spoken to him like this before. Most people only see him as the powerful CEO, but Cristina sees the man behind the title, and that terrifies him. I don't know if I'm capable of that, he admits quietly. Cristina turns to face him, her eyes filled with compassion. You are, Oliver. You just have to let yourself believe it. Despite their undeniable chemistry and the blossoming emotions between them, the relationship between Oliver and Cristina faces a host of complications. Oliver is someone who has spent his entire life controlling every aspect of his world, from his business empire to his emotions. Letting Cristina in has been like opening a door he's kept bolted for years, and it scares him, but he can't help how he feels around her. After their kiss at the gala and the intimate moments they've shared since then, Oliver begins to struggle with his dual existence. On one hand, he is the formidable CEO of King Enterprises, a man feared by competitors and respected by employees. On the other hand, Cristina makes him feel vulnerable, like a man who still has cracks under his polished exterior. One afternoon, as Oliver is reviewing reports in his office, a familiar knock on his door pulls him out of his thoughts. "Come in," he calls, his voice still controlled, though his heart skips when he sees her. Cristina steps inside, her eyes lingering on him for a moment longer than usual. She's been trying to stay focused on her work, but the gravity of her feelings for Oliver has made that nearly impossible. Every time she looks at him, she's reminded of the way he kissed her, the way he made her feel like the only woman in the world. "I have the revised proposal for the charity event," Cristina says, holding out a file. Her tone is professional, but beneath it, there's a tension that neither of them can ignore. Oliver takes the file, their fingers brushing ever so slightly. The touch is electric, sending a jolt through both of them. He watches her as she steps back, the distance between them both necessary and unbearable. "Cristina," he starts, setting the file aside. He's been meaning to have this conversation for days now, but every time he sees her, he's overwhelmed by emotions he isn't equipped to deal with. "We need to talk." Her heart skips a beat at the seriousness in his voice. "About what?" she asks, though she knows exactly what he's referring to. What's happening between us?" He stands, pacing behind his desk, his hands slipping into his pockets as he fights to find the right words. "I'm not good at this. I've never been good at letting people in." Cristina takes a breath, stepping forward. "I know, Oliver, but you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest." Oliver stops, turning to face her. His eyes are stormy, conflicted. "I don't know how to be with someone like you. You're different. You make me feel things I've spent years avoiding." Cristina approaches him slowly, her voice soft. "You don't have to protect yourself from me, Oliver. I'm not here to hurt you." For a long moment, they stand in silence, the air between them thick with unspoken words. Then, in a move that surprises them both, Oliver reaches out and takes her hand, pulling her close. He rests his forehead against hers, closing his eyes as he lets the warmth of her presence wash over him. "I don't want to hurt you either," he whispers. Cristina smiles, her heart full. "Then don't." In that moment, it feels like the walls he's built around himself are finally starting to crumble, but they both know that this is only the beginning. Days pass, and despite their deepening connection, Oliver's struggle with vulnerability intensifies. His growing protectiveness over Cristina begins to surface in ways neither of them expects. At work, he maintains a firm professionalism, but outside the office, he becomes more possessive of her time, her attention. He finds himself annoyed when she mentions having dinner plans with friends, or when other men at work speak to her too casually. It's a reaction he can't quite control, and it's foreign to him, a man who's always maintained an air of detachment. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Oliver invites Cristina to his penthouse for a private dinner. It's the first time they've spent time together outside of the office since their kiss at the gala, and though Cristina is excited, she's also nervous. She knows that Oliver is still wrestling with his own demons, and she's not sure how much longer he can keep fighting them. The dinner starts off pleasant enough. Oliver has arranged for a private chef to cook for them, and the ambience is perfect, candlelit and intimate. But as the evening wears on, Cristina senses a tension in Oliver that she can't quite place. "So, I hear you're working late tomorrow, Oliver says casually as they sit down with their wine. Cristina nods. Yes, I've got a meeting with the marketing team. We're finalizing the details for the charity gala next month. Oliver's eyes narrow slightly. Do you have to be there that late? You've been working nonstop. Cristina raises an eyebrow. It's part of the job. You know that better than anyone. His grip tightens on his wine glass. I just don't see why they need you there so late. Can't someone else handle it? Cristina sets down her fork, sensing the shift in his mood. Oliver, what's going on? You've been acting strange lately. He leans back in his chair, his jaw clenched. I don't like the idea of you spending so much time with people who don't appreciate you. Her eyes widen, surprised by the intensity of his words. Are you jealous? Oliver stiffens, caught off guard by her question. He doesn't want to admit it, but the truth is staring him in the face. I don't know, maybe I am. Cristina looks at him for a long moment before reaching across the table to take his hand. Oliver, you don't have to be jealous. I'm here with you, aren't I? His eyes soften as he looks at her, but the fear of losing her still gnaws at him. He's never cared about anyone enough to feel this way, and the unfamiliarity of it terrifies him. But before he can respond, Cristina squeezes his hand gently. You need to trust me, she says softly. And more than that, you need to trust yourself. Oliver looks down at their hands, feeling the warmth of her touch seep into his skin. For the first time in a long time, he feels something other than control, something he's been avoiding for years. Maybe you're right, he says quietly, his voice thick with emotion. Maybe I do. The next few weeks are a whirlwind of emotions for both Oliver and Cristina. Their relationship continues to deepen, but the challenges they face grow stronger as well. Oliver's possessiveness begins to bleed into his professional life, and while Cristina tries to maintain a balance, she's starting to feel the strain. One afternoon, while Cristina is in the middle of a meeting with the marketing team, Oliver unexpectedly walks in. His presence immediately shifts the atmosphere in the room. He's not there for the meeting, but he makes a point to stand by the door, his gaze fixed on Cristina. Cristina catches his eye, and a flicker of confusion crosses her face. He's never interrupted her meetings before. Why now? As the meeting wraps up, Cristina excuses herself and walks over to him. Is everything okay? She asks quietly. Oliver shrugs, but there's a tightness to his posture that she can't ignore. I wanted to make sure you weren't overworking yourself. Cristina frowns. Oliver, I'm fine. This is part of the job. He doesn't respond, just watches her with an intensity that unnerves her. She sighs, reaching out to touch his arm. We need to talk. Later that evening, as they sit in his office, Cristina finally addresses the growing elephant in the room. Oliver, I know you care about me, but this possessiveness, it's starting to affect us. Oliver tenses, not used to being confronted about his behavior. I'm not trying to control you. Cristina nods, but her eyes are filled with concern. I know you're not, but it feels that way sometimes. You have to let me be myself. You can't protect me from everything. Oliver stands, running a hand through his hair in frustration. I've never felt this way about anyone, Cristina. I don't know how to handle it. Cristina stands as well, walking over to him. Then let's figure it out together. But you have to trust me, Oliver. You have to trust that I'm here because I want to be. Oliver stares at her, his walls starting to crack again. He nods, his voice low. I'll try. Cristina smiles softly, resting her hand on his chest. That's all I'm asking. With the tension between them now addressed, Oliver and Cristina make an effort to rebuild their relationship. Oliver works on letting go of some of his controlling tendencies, though it's a slow process. Cristina, in turn, reassures him with her presence, showing him that she's not going anywhere. One weekend, Oliver surprises Cristina by taking her on a spontaneous trip to a secluded beach house he owns. It's the first time they've truly escaped from the pressures of work, and for the first time, they can just be themselves without any outside distractions. As they walk along the shore, hand in hand, Cristina feels a sense of peace she hasn't felt in a long time. Oliver is still a work in progress, but he's trying, and that's enough for her. "I didn't know you had this place," Cristina says, smiling as they sit down on the sand. Oliver chuckles. "There's a lot you don't know about me yet." Cristina raises an eyebrow. "Oh? Like what?" Oliver looks at her, his eyes softening. "Like the fact that I've never felt this way about anyone before. You're the first person I've ever let this close." Cristina's heart swells as she gazes at him. "I'm glad you did." For the first time, Oliver smiles, a real, genuine smile. And in that moment, Cristina knows that no matter what challenges lie ahead, they'll face them together. Just when things between Oliver and Cristina begin to settle into a comfortable rhythm, an unexpected visitor brings chaos into their lives, someone from Oliver's past. One afternoon, while Cristina is finishing up a meeting in the office, Oliver receives a phone call from someone he hasn't spoken to in years, Elena, his ex-fiancée. The name alone is enough to send a chill through Oliver's spine. He had buried that part of his life, choosing to focus on building his company and guarding his heart. But now, with Cristina, everything he thought he had locked away is resurfacing. "Oliver, we need to talk." Elena's voice is cool and composed on the other end of the line. "What is there to talk about?" Oliver's voice is hard, his posture stiffening. He stands by his office window, his hand gripping the phone tighter than necessary. "I'm back in town, and we have some unfinished business," Elena responds, her tone dripping with a kind of possessiveness that makes his skin crawl. Without saying more, Oliver hangs up. He knows this is far from over. He hasn't told Cristina about Elena. He had no reason to, not until now, but the thought of keeping it from her makes him feel uneasy. Later that evening, Oliver and Cristina sit in the living room of his penthouse. Cristina notices that something's off with Oliver. He's quieter than usual, and his typically sharp, composed demeanor seems shaken. "Is everything okay?" she asks softly, sensing the shift in his mood. Oliver glances at her, his jaw tightening. He hates this, hates that after everything they've been through, he's still hiding pieces of himself from her. But he also knows that this conversation can't be avoided. "There's something I need to tell you," Oliver begins, his voice low. Cristina watches him carefully, concern flickering in her eyes. "Okay, what is it?" she asks, trying to brace herself for whatever is coming. "Elena, my ex-fiancée, is back in town. She called me today," Oliver says, his gaze steady on her, watching for her reaction. Cristina's heart skips a beat, but she stays calm. "I didn't know you were engaged." "It was a long time ago, before I built King Enterprises. Things between us ended badly, and I haven't spoken to her since. I didn't think she would ever come back, but now that she's here, I'm not sure what she wants." Cristina takes a deep breath, processing the information. "Do you still have feelings for her?" Oliver shakes his head firmly. "No. Whatever we had ended years ago, but I don't trust her. She always had a way of manipulating people, and I don't want her anywhere near you." Cristina's eyes soften as she reaches out to take his hand. "Oliver, I trust you. Whatever Elena's intentions are, we'll deal with it together." Her words bring a sense of relief to Oliver, but the tension still lingers. He knows that Elena's return is only the beginning of a storm that could threaten everything he's built with Cristina. The next few days are filled with a growing sense of unease. Elena's presence in the city casts a shadow over Oliver and Cristina's relationship. Although Oliver reassures Cristina that his past with Elena is over, there's an unspoken tension between them that neither can ignore. Cristina tries to focus on work, but her thoughts keep drifting to Elena. She trusts Oliver, but the idea of another woman from his past stirring up trouble makes her feel vulnerable. She wonders what kind of person Elena is, what kind of hold she once had over Oliver. One evening, after a particularly long day, Cristina decides to confront her feelings. She finds Oliver sitting in his study, reviewing some documents. The room is dimly lit, and the weight of the day is evident in the lines of his face. "Oliver, can we talk?" Cristina's voice is soft but firm, and Oliver immediately knows what this is about. He sets the papers aside and gestures for her to sit beside him on the couch. Of course, what's on your mind? Cristina sits, folding her hands in her lap. I've been thinking about Elena. I know you've told me that you don't have feelings for her anymore, but I can't help but feel anxious about it. What if she tries to come between us? Oliver sighs, running a hand through his hair. Cristina, I know this isn't easy. Elena is complicated, but I promise you, whatever she wants, it won't change anything between us. Cristina bites her lip, her eyes searching his for reassurance. I believe you, Oliver, but I don't want to be blindsided by anything. Oliver reaches for her hand, holding it gently. You won't be. I'll make sure of that. Their conversation is interrupted by the sound of Oliver's phone buzzing on the coffee table. He glances at the screen and sees Elena's name flash across it. Cristina's heart sinks. It's her, isn't it? Oliver nods, his expression darkening. He silences the phone and tosses it aside, choosing not to answer. We'll handle this together, he promises, though deep down, both of them know that Elena's return has only just begun to unravel their world. Despite Oliver's attempts to keep Elena at bay, she proves to be more persistent than either of them expected. One afternoon, while Cristina is working late in her office, Elena pays an unannounced visit to King Enterprises. Cristina is surprised to hear her assistant announce that a woman claiming to be Oliver's ex-fiancée is in the lobby, demanding to speak with her. It's the last thing Cristina wants to deal with, but she knows that avoiding Elena won't help. She steels herself and agrees to meet Elena in one of the conference rooms. As soon as she walks in, she's struck by Elena's presence. The woman is stunning, tall, elegant, and impeccably dressed. Her eyes are sharp, and there's a calculating air about her that immediately puts Cristina on guard. So, you're the new woman in Oliver's life, Elena says, her voice smooth as she looks Cristina up and down. Cristina remains composed, not rising to the bait. I'm Cristina. I assume you're Elena. Elena smirks. I see Oliver has a type. Beautiful, but naive. Cristina's eyes narrow slightly, but she keeps her cool. What do you want, Elena? Elena leans back in her chair, crossing her legs casually. I just wanted to meet the woman who's trying to replace me. You see, Oliver and I, we had something special, something deep. I'm not sure you fully understand the kind of man he is. Cristina raises an eyebrow. I know exactly who Oliver is, and whatever you two had is in the past. Elena chuckles, her gaze cold and dismissive. The past has a way of coming back, darling. You may think you have him now, but men like Oliver, they never really let go of what they once had. Cristina stands, unwilling to let Elena get under her skin any further. I'm not interested in playing games with you, Elena. Whatever you're trying to do, it won't work. Elena rises as well, her expression unreadable. We'll see about that. As Cristina watches Elena leave, her confidence falters for just a moment. She knows Elena is dangerous, and she can't shake the feeling that the woman has more up her sleeve than she's letting on. The days that follow are tense. Cristina doesn't tell Oliver about her encounter with Elena, not wanting to worry him further, but the stress of it all begins to wear on her. She tries to focus on work, but Elena's words echo in her mind. She knows that Elena is trying to get inside her head, but it's hard not to feel threatened. Meanwhile, Oliver is becoming more distant. His frustrations with Elena's presence in their lives have put him on edge, and his protective instincts toward Cristina are making him more controlling than ever. He starts checking in on her constantly, asking about her whereabouts and who she's with, even when she's just at work. One evening, Cristina confronts him about it. They're sitting in his penthouse, the tension between them palpable. Oliver, we need to talk, Cristina says, her voice steady but strained. Oliver sets down his drink, his jaw tightening. What's wrong? Cristina sighs, running a hand through her hair. You've been different lately. You're more controlling, more paranoid. I know Elena is causing problems, but we can't let her come between us. Oliver's eyes darken, his frustration bubbling to the surface. "I'm just trying to protect you, Cristina. You don't know Elena like I do. She's dangerous." "I understand that," Cristina replies, her voice gentle but firm. "But you can't control everything. I need you to trust me. We need to trust each other if we're going to get through this." Oliver stares at her for a long moment, his emotions warring within him. He knows she's right, but the fear of losing her, of failing to protect her, feels overwhelming. "I do trust you," he finally says, his voice softening. I can't lose you, Cristina." Cristina steps closer to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "You won't lose me, Oliver, but we have to face this together, as equals." Oliver pulls her into a tight embrace, resting his chin on top of her head. "I'm sorry. I'll try to do better." As they stand there, holding each other in the quiet of the penthouse, they both know that the battle with Elena is far from over. But as long as they have each other, they're determined to fight through it together. Cristina wakes up in the middle of the night to find the bed beside her cold and empty. Oliver is nowhere to be seen. The silence of the penthouse feels heavier than usual, as if the tension between them has finally taken up residence within the walls. She gets up, pulling on her robe, and quietly pads out of the bedroom, her heart racing with a growing sense of unease. In the living room, she finds Oliver standing by the window, staring out at the city skyline, a glass of whiskey in his hand. His silhouette is rigid, his posture tense. He hasn't slept, and it shows in the weariness etched across his face. "Oliver?" Cristina's voice is soft, hesitant. "Why are you up?" Oliver doesn't turn to face her. His gaze remains fixed on the city below. "I couldn't sleep." Cristina steps closer, wrapping her arms around herself. "Is this about Elena?" Oliver finally turns to look at her, his eyes dark, haunted by something deeper than he's willing to admit. "I can't stop thinking about it, about everything. What if I'm making a mistake? What if you're in danger because of me?" Cristina moves closer, gently placing a hand on his arm. "You're not making a mistake, Oliver. Elena can't control our lives unless we let her." He looks at her, his expression torn. "But what if she tries to hurt you, or ruin everything we've built?" Cristina's heart aches at the vulnerability in his voice. She's never seen him like this, so afraid, so unsure. "We'll get through this, together." Oliver takes a deep breath, setting his glass down on the table. "I don't know if I'm strong enough for this." Cristina steps even closer, wrapping her arms around him and resting her head against his chest. "You are. You've always been strong, Oliver. But you don't have to carry this weight alone." For a moment, Oliver lets himself lean into her embrace, finding comfort in her warmth. But the fear gnawing at him doesn't dissipate. He's spent his entire life building walls, protecting himself from vulnerability, and now, with Cristina, those walls are crumbling faster than he can repair them. "I'm sorry, Cristina," he whispers, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm sorry for dragging you into this mess." Cristina pulls back just enough to look up at him, her eyes filled with love and understanding. "You didn't drag me into anything, Oliver. I chose this. I chose you." Her words resonate deeply within him, and for the first time in days, Oliver feels a flicker of hope. But he knows that as long as Elena is in the picture, that hope will remain fragile. The next day, Oliver is called into an urgent board meeting at Montgomery Enterprises, where rumors about Elena have begun to swirl. Cristina decides to stay at the office to catch up on her work. She's still trying to shake off the uneasy feeling from the night before, but she refuses to let Elena's presence disrupt her life any further. However, as she's finishing up her tasks, her assistant knocks on the door, her expression tense. "Miss Cristina, Elena is here again. She's asking for you." Cristina's heart skips a beat, but she doesn't allow herself to feel intimidated. "Tell her I'll be down in a minute." Taking a deep breath, Cristina steels herself for the encounter. She knows that Elena won't stop until she's achieved whatever twisted goal she's set for herself, but Cristina refuses to be the one who backs down. When Cristina arrives in the lobby, She finds Elena lounging on one of the sleek, modern couches, looking every bit as glamorous and composed as ever. But there's something predatory in her smile as she spots Cristina approaching. "Cristina, darling." Elena greets her with a tone dripping with false sweetness. "It's so nice to see you again." Cristina doesn't return the smile. She stands tall, determined not to let Elena see even the slightest hint of fear. "What do you want, Elena?" Elena's smile widens, but it doesn't reach her eyes. "I thought it was time we had a little chat, just the two of us. You see, I've come to realize that Oliver's attachment to you is stronger than I anticipated. But that doesn't mean I'm giving up." Cristina's jaw tightens. "Oliver isn't a prize to be won, Elena. Whatever you had with him is over." Elena's expression hardens, her facade slipping for a brief moment. "Oh, I'm well aware of that. But here's the thing. You don't know Oliver like I do. He has a dark side, one that you've barely scratched the surface of. And when he's pushed to his limits, he can be unpredictable." Cristina feels a cold chill run down her spine, but she doesn't let it show. "Is that supposed to scare me?" Elena's smile returns, but it's colder now, more menacing. "It's a warning, darling. Be careful. Oliver may love you now, but love is fleeting. And when things start to fall apart, you'll be left to pick up the pieces." Cristina stares at Elena, her heart pounding. She knows that Elena is trying to plant seeds of doubt in her mind, but Cristina refuses to let her win. "You don't know anything about our relationship, Elena. Whatever you're trying to do, it won't work." Elena stands, smoothing out her dress with a casual elegance that only makes her more dangerous. "We'll see. But just remember, Oliver and I go way back, and history has a funny way of repeating itself." Without another word, Elena turns on her heel and walks out of the building, leaving Cristina standing there, shaken but resolute. The confrontation with Elena lingers in Cristina's mind for the rest of the day. She tries to focus on her work, but Elena's words keep echoing in her head. She knows that Elena is trying to manipulate her, but the doubts are hard to shake. Later that evening, when Oliver returns from his meeting, Cristina decides to tell him about her encounter with Elena. They sit in the living room, the city lights casting a soft glow through the windows. "Oliver, I need to tell you something," Cristina begins, her voice steady. Oliver immediately senses the seriousness of her tone and turns to face her. "What is it?" "Elena came to see me today. She tried to get inside my head, tried to make me doubt you," Cristina says, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "She said you have a dark side, that you're unpredictable." Oliver's expression darkens, anger flashing in his eyes. "That woman is toxic. She's trying to drive a wedge between us because she can't stand the idea that I've moved on." Cristina nods, her heart heavy. "I know that, but it's hard not to let her words affect me. I trust you, Oliver, but she's making it so hard." Oliver reaches for her hand, his grip firm but gentle. "Cristina, listen to me. Whatever Elena told you, it's a lie. I've made mistakes in my past, but I'm not that person anymore. Not with you." Cristina looks up at him, her eyes filled with vulnerability. "I want to believe that, Oliver, but she knows how to push my buttons, how to make me doubt everything." Oliver's jaw tightens, and for a moment, he's silent. Then he speaks, his voice filled with determination. "I'll handle this, Cristina. I'll make sure Elena doesn't come near you again." Cristina squeezes his hand, but her heart still feels heavy. "I don't want you to handle this alone. We're in this together, remember?" Oliver's eyes soften, and he pulls her into a tight embrace. "I know, and I promise you, we'll get through this. Together." As they sit there, holding each other, Cristina realizes that no matter what Elena throws at them, their bond is stronger than she ever imagined. But she also knows that this isn't the end. Elena will keep pushing until she gets what she wants, or until Oliver and Cristina push back harder. Cristina stood in the doorway of Oliver's office, watching him pore over legal documents with an intensity that had become all too familiar in recent days. It had been a tumultuous few weeks. Elena's relentless interference had threatened not just their relationship but Oliver's entire career and the very future of Montgomery Global Holdings. However, Cristina knew that today would be different. Today was the day they finally put an end to Elena's reign of manipulation and lies. As she quietly stepped into the office, Oliver looked up, his eyes tired but softening at the sight of her. "Cristina," he said, a small smile tugging at his lips, "I didn't realize you were here." She walked over to his desk, placing her hand on his, offering him a reassuring squeeze. "I couldn't stay away. We're in this together, remember?" He rose from his chair, pulling her into a tight embrace. "I know," he whispered into her hair, "and I don't know what I'd do without you." Cristina pulled back slightly, looking up into his eyes. "You don't have to find out. We're stronger than she thinks, Oliver. Elena's power over you, over us, ends today." Oliver exhaled deeply, running a hand through his hair. "The lawyers are confident we have enough evidence to expose her for what she's done. Blackmail, coercion, fraud. But I still worry. What if it's not enough? What if she finds a way to worm out of this?" Cristina cupped his face gently. "She won't. You've done everything right, Oliver. You're not the man she thinks you are anymore. You're not the ruthless CEO she once controlled. You're better. And I'm standing with you." A sense of calm washed over Oliver as he stared into Cristina's eyes. He knew that everything she said was true. She had transformed him in ways he never thought possible. She had tamed the beast in him, showing him that love, not power, was what truly mattered. Together, they were unstoppable. The meeting with Elena had been set for noon in one of Montgomery Global's private conference rooms. It was here that Oliver, Cristina, and his legal team planned to confront her with irrefutable evidence of her crimes, forcing her to back down once and for all. As the clock ticked toward noon, the tension in the room was palpable. Oliver and Cristina sat side by side, their hands intertwined, while the lawyers prepared their files. Everything had been meticulously planned, but there was still a lingering fear that Elena, with her cunning and manipulative nature, would find a way to escape justice. At exactly 12 o'clock, the doors swung open, and Elena strode in with her usual air of confidence. She was impeccably dressed, her designer heels clicking sharply on the floor as she approached the table. Her eyes immediately found Oliver, then shifted to Cristina, and a cold smile crept across her face. Well, Elena drawled, her voice laced with sarcasm. "What's this? A little intervention?" Oliver stood up, his expression hard and unyielding. "It's over, Elena. We have everything we need to expose you. The blackmail, the threats, the financial manipulation. It's all in these documents." Elena raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "Do you really think that's going to stop me? I've been playing this game for a long time, Oliver. I know how to win." But Cristina, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke up, her voice calm but firm. "This isn't a game, Elena. You've hurt people, people who trusted you, people who believed in you. You can't keep doing this and expect no consequences." Elena's gaze shifted to Cristina, her expression growing colder. "And what do you know about consequences, little girl? You think you can stand by Oliver's side and protect him from me? You're just a distraction, a temporary fling. He'll tire of you eventually, just like he did with everyone else." But Cristina didn't flinch. She met Elena's gaze head-on, her voice unwavering. "I'm not a fling, and Oliver isn't the man he used to be. He's changed, because he finally learned what it means to love someone. You can't touch that." Oliver stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. "You're done, Elena. If you don't walk away now, I'll make sure the world knows exactly who you are and what you've done. You'll lose everything." For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed Elena's face. She could see the determination in Oliver's eyes, the unbreakable bond between him and Cristina. She realized that she no longer had the control she once wielded over him. Her power had slipped through her fingers. Her smile faltered. "You think you've won, don't you?" Cristina stood beside Oliver, her hand resting on his arm. "It's not about winning. It's about doing what's right. Elena looked at the files in front of her, the weight of her impending downfall settling heavily on her shoulders. She knew when she was beaten. Without another word, she turned on her heel and walked out of the room, leaving behind the remnants of her failed schemes. As the door closed behind her, a collective sigh of relief filled the room. The threat was finally over. That night, Oliver and Cristina sat on the balcony of their penthouse, the city lights twinkling below them. The cool breeze brushed against their skin as they sipped champagne, celebrating not just their victory over Elena, but the strength of their relationship. "I can't believe it's really over," Oliver said, his voice filled with wonder. "For so long, I thought I'd never escape her." Cristina smiled softly, resting her head on his shoulder. "You're free now, Oliver. Free to be the man you've always wanted to be." He turned to face her, his eyes filled with love and gratitude. "And it's all because of you. I didn't know what love was until you came into my life. You changed everything." Cristina reached up, cupping his face in her hands. "You changed me too. You showed me that love can be fierce, that it can survive even the darkest of times." Oliver leaned in, pressing his forehead against hers. "I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I'm never letting you go. Ever." Cristina smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. "Good, because I'm not going anywhere." Their lips met in a tender kiss, one filled with the promise of a future unburdened by the past. Together, they had faced their demons, fought their battles, and emerged stronger for it. As they sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, just as they always had. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more delightful stories.